Welcome back, College Baseball Central, folks. We're here again for another part of our head coach series. Really excited about this one. I've been pumping these guys up all fall, and I know Coach is excited to be joining us here. Washington State's head coach, Nathan Choate. How's it going, Coach? Welcome on the podcast.
Mark, thanks for having me. Good to see you. It's going well. It's nice balmy temperatures up here in Pullman, right? Getting ready for the winter, but no, it's going good. Going good. Thanks.
Hey, I feel you. It was 22 degrees when I got home here in Central Oregon, so I think we're on that same page. It's not warm right now. It's
No,
we're past the fall ball stage, right? Now we're heading into it. This is the tough part where we get done with fall ball. These kids, they get to go home for the break a little bit. They come back, do a little bit of things, and they leave again until the next semester starts. What's the toughest part for you and your guys? Waiting till February 14th now.
the biggest thing is probably just the wait and stopping. I thought we ended the fall pretty well. I was pretty pleased with how we were playing, what we were doing, and so to end it and then all of a sudden have a month and a half, 2 month break before we get to go and get going again. That's probably the most difficult part. I get a little nervous with the pitchers, throwing on their own over the break and making sure that they're getting their throwing in. That's where college baseball is a little bit different than professional baseball. Really, this should be our time to be like spring training to be getting ready. But I trust our guys. Our guys will do a good job throwing. But really, I'm not the most patient person in the world when it comes to the baseball season. So we'll enjoy the holidays with the family. But December 26th, it's baseball. No, it's baseball until the end of the spring. So.
Absolutely, and I know the fall ball was great. You get to see the guys that get some scrimmage games in, get to take a look at these rosters and see the guys you've brought in. And I know for you guys, I was really excited to see these guys play in the fall and get to hear some stuff. And I'm pumped. I mean, how do you feel though with these roster restrictions? I know down to 34, and they might be able to do the 34 scholarships. That's going to be conference based, but the 34 players, I was really pushing for 40 with 6 redshirt guys. I thought that was a more fair number. But how you guys deal with the 34, Coach?
So I think it's a little short-sighted by the NCAA for baseball, just from the standpoint of to not allow us to play more fall games and to limit the roster size. It really limits us on being able to scrimmage and having guys out of position. And I think it puts some guys at risk. So I think if they would have said, hey, you got 34, but you get to play 8 outside competitions in the fall, 8 scrimmages against local junior colleges, I think it would have made a little bit more sense. My biggest concern is the injury thing. Professional baseball, yes, I got it. They have a roster limit, and an active roster. But if somebody gets hurt, you can go down to the minor leagues and bring someone up. The issue with us is, you lose 2 or 3 arms in January or February. Now all of a sudden you're going through the spring and you're putting some guys at risk and asking other guys that are healthy to throw more than they probably should, or you're having position players have to pitch what they're not trained to do. And so the injury thing, I think there's still some kinks that they need to work out, whether it's guys are redshirting or there's a redshirt program. And if guys get hurt, then you can bring them out of that. And I think the big question is going to be, when does the 34-man roster have to be declared? Is it December 1st? Is it halfway through the fall? Is it the first day of school? Those are answers that we don't have yet. And so I think, they're going to have to make some adjustments along the way.
If they're going to go to the 34, I'm with you. I think that they should push that date to maybe the first day of second semester, right? So as soon as after that break, that session starts up, that should be the day you got to declare the 34. Because if you have an arm injury in the fall, if they say, hey, it's got to be there before the start of fall, what do you do when that semester starts and you got a guy that goes down? Now you're already out players and you're down 3 or 4 guys. You get some injuries in there. You can't replace those guys. They have to have contingencies in place, especially for schools that are like out there. Not a lot of places have 2-way players. You might
Yep.
see some guys that are going to be asked to be thrown, like you said, some outfielders or some infielders, guys just throwing up there to eat up some innings so you don't burn out your arms. And I think they're going to have to look at it. I think that the intention was there, but I really like the idea of the 40 with the 6 redshirt guys that you can bring back in if something happens. I think that that's the safer route. I hope that they look into that and possibly go down that route, because that was what I was pushing for hard. I know, looking at this. Coach, been doing this, been around a lot of good guys. Who do you emulate, or who was your mentor to get you to the point you are now in your coaching style?
Man, I've been really fortunate to work with and work for and play for some really, really good coaches. Don Snedden, who I played for in junior college, Mike Curran, who was my high school coach, one of the most winningest high school coaches in the country. And then I played for Don Snedden at Santa Ana. And then I worked for Dave Serrano, who's a mentor of mine at UC Irvine. He was head coach at Tennessee, Cal State Fullerton, UC Irvine. Doug Smith at UC Riverside, who really taught me how to recruit at hard places that are pretty difficult. And then, I worked for Andy Stankiewicz at Grand Canyon University, who's now the head coach at USC. And so, all of those guys have been ultra successful, really good people, great baseball coaches. So really fortunate to be around a lot of really, really good coaches, really, really good men. And so kind of emulate and take the best parts of all of them and try to mix it in and add those things to our program.
Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned a ton of great leaders and guys that have been around programs for a long time and been in this business. And, when you get a dip into those guys, I mean, what kind of edge does that give you when you can talk to those guys about baseball? And then you're up here at a tough spot to recruit. Washington State, you said you had coached and you were able to get some guys and work on really getting some guys up here. Is dipping into those guys and that knowledge helping you out up here?
A ton. And, they all did it so differently on how they ran a program. Don Stedden was a very quiet, confident leader, got his point across in a different way. Sometimes I use that tactic. Dave Serrano being the pitching coach and the head coach and kind of trying to do both. I am our pitching coach. And so kind of learned how he juggled both, which can be difficult at times. And then, like I said, Doug Smith at UC Riverside, a legendary coach that really did a great job recruiting to a very difficult place. And finding really, really good players. And so taking a lot of his tricks in recruiting and trying to identify the right type of players for our program. And then Andy Stankiewicz, who, the combination played in the big leagues. When we were at Grand Canyon together, nobody had really heard of Grand Canyon at the time. And how he ran the program and the on-field skill development and the baseball and that part of it. I really taken that from him and just some of the detailed stuff that we do. So, like I said, really fortunate to work for all those guys and take a little bit from all of them and try to implement in our program.
Yeah, I mean, like he's mentioned, Stankiewicz, takes Grand Canyon. Now they're a perennial team that's in the tournament. You're like, they came out of nowhere for most people that weren't paying attention to the college baseball world. He's at USC. He's trying to bring that program back. I have a lot of faith in what he's doing down there. So that's a great guy to learn from, Coach. Let's talk about some players. You got some interesting guys coming in, a really exciting team. I'm really excited for this roster. Guys like Luke Deal, Max Hartman, of course. Everybody's talking about Max. I mean, that's everybody and their mother knows about Max. But talk about some of these other guys. Like all the opener, like some of these guys are coming in that are going to add in right now and play.
Yeah, so I'll start with the last guy you said, Ali Obenauer, who's a middle infielder from Northern California that has a ton of upside. Him and Kyler Northrup, who are both freshmen, they're going to see pretty significant innings as freshmen this year. I've been really impressed with just their baseball IQ as freshmen. Max Hartman, who you mentioned, is probably going to lead off for us, and he kind of makes our offense go. Logan Johnstone, who played the second half of the year for us last year. And then we have a bunch of junior college players that are really good. Rico Longo from Spokane, that's a kind of a utility infielder that's just a tough, gritty at bat. Gavin Roy, who's a junior college player from Cloud County. And we have Ryan Shawnsby, who's going to play first base for us, probably hitting the middle of the lineup. So you start adding a bunch of those pieces in with a couple of those returners. I think we have a chance to be pretty scrappy and tough offensively. I think the biggest thing is on the mound. Is we have so many more guys that throw strikes, anywhere from 89 to 91, 92, can cross count with a changeup, multiple pitches for strikes. I think that'll probably be the strength of our team is that we'll throw strikes and we'll play pretty solid defense. Offensively, I think we're going to put pressure on teams. We may not hit for a ton of power, but I do think we have some older guys that got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder that were looking for a home and somewhere, maybe a program that had a chip on its shoulder, which I think if anybody knows myself or my assistant coaches, we have a chip on our shoulder, especially with everything that's happened in the conference with the Pac-12. We've kind of gotten left behind and forgotten up here. And there's a bunch of good baseball players in our program. So look forward to showcasing that this spring.
Yeah, you got any pictures you want to highlight? And I know you got some guys coming in from the junior college level that are going to step up, and you had some great starting pitching last year going on. It really just felt like maybe the depth wasn't there. Now you got some depth. Now you got guys that are going to come in and beat up the strike zone.
Yeah, Griffith Smith was a junior college All-American. Luke Myers was a junior college All-American at Central Arizona. Both of those guys are going to pitch a lot for us. Ingmar Hutzetsen, who's from the Netherlands, is another guy. It's 6'4", 92, 93 with a slider, fills up the strike zone. He's got a chance to pitch a lot for us. Caden Wickersham, who's going to pitch at the end of games for us, is 93, 95, throws a lot of strikes. And so, like I said, just a lot of those guys that we brought in, they haven't done it at the Division I level yet. But I've seen enough of them in the fall in their bullpens and the scrimmages that they're plenty good enough. It's just a question of them getting some seasoning under their belt.
I don't know if Ingmar has a nickname yet, but I'm going to start calling him the Flying Dutchman. I'm pretty excited for him. I mean, I think that one's going to be a good one. Put him up there.
I like it. I like it.
I'm really excited to see what this staff does. I know a big key, especially moving into a new conference this year, is going to be beating up that strike zone and challenging guys and say, hey, you got to beat us by swinging. We're not going to give out free passes. What do you see going to the Mountain West Conference this year? I know that there's some really good opponents. I know the schedule's out, and we're really excited about it. Talk a little bit about the Mountain West, and then we'll get into what your favorite weekend is.
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with the Mountain West, just being a West Coast guy. We've played almost every place. I've been to every single place in our conference except for Air Force. That's the one place that I've never played at, and I've heard hold on to your hat if you're a pitching guy because the ball flies there. Yeah. But there's good baseball on the West Coast, and I think sometimes with all the media of the Power 4, Power 5, Power whatever, you start to categorize programs in baseball into these different levels. There's good baseball on the West Coast everywhere, and if you don't play good baseball, you're going to get beat, and we understand that. And so for us, pitching in with our fastball, that's something that we really practice a lot is pitching in. I think that's going to matter a lot in some of these offensive ballparks, cross count with a changeup, changing speeds, and then playing really good defense. So I think we have a pretty good understanding that the Mountain West is good baseball. And if you don't play good baseball, you're going to get beat, and you're going to get beat bad. And so we need to show up fundamentally sound, ready to play really, really good baseball. Have a lot of respect for the conference. Happy and appreciative that we have a home for the next 2 years. And yep. So, I know Oregon State did a really good job kind of piecing together an independent schedule. I didn't feel like that was really an option for us up in Pullman. I thought it was really important that we were in a conference. So kudos to our administration and Ann McCoy, our AD, of finding us a home, at least a temporary home for the next 2 years. So ton of respect for the Mountain West and look forward to being a part of it.
I love it. And you got teams in there that have won national championships and been to the College World Series. And this is not like a backwoods program. These are big schools that people don't watch West Coast baseball. I've been saying it all offseason. West Coast is back this year, folks. This is going to be a lot of really good teams. You're going to see some teams make it to Omaha. A lot of competition out west here, and so many good teams. I'm excited to see what happens here this year, Coach. But tell me about a series or a couple games that you're really excited about coming up in this schedule.
Well, we open up at Arkansas, and I think that'll be a really good test just because we have so many new players to play in that environment. I'm sure they'll be excited to open up the season. They'll probably be a top 5 team in the country. They have big-time arms, and they can really, really pitch. And I think that'll be a great opportunity for us to go in that environment and to see if we can stay in character. If we play our style of baseball, we can beat anybody in the country. I know that. Our coaches know that. I believe our players know that, but you never know until you're in that environment and you got all these people screaming at you. So I think that'll be a great opportunity for us. And then, a team that I think is going to be pretty good this year is Iowa. And we're playing Iowa week 3 in Cleburne, a 4-game series at a neutral site. And I have a feeling they're going to be pretty good. So I think that's going to be a pretty sneaky good series week 3 of the year down in Texas.
That's a great test, and that Arkansas series, your guys are going to get a handful immediately. Like, it's like 11,000 fans of Baum Walker that are very excited about baseball and ready for it to be back, especially after their disappointing football season. Your guys are getting in there, and they're going to get going right away in this conference and playing some of these teams. And it's good to get out there and get that competition early, get into conference play, and be ready for that conference again after conference championship. I know I will personally be up there in Pullman the March 21st, 22nd, 23rd series. Very excited to be up there for my first time in a long time. I don't know if I've been up there I've been up there a few times, but I was recruited by Washington State a long time ago. So okay. I'm really excited to be joining back up there in Pullman and going to watch a game. Can't wait. Coach, how do the Cougs get into the tournament first off, and then make that trip and get that hotness and streakiness to get to Omaha?
Well, it's gonna come down to pitching and defense. And if you can pitch and play defense and stay in character in big time environments, and you play good baseball at the right time, you got a shot. That's the thing about baseball. It's a little bit different than football and basketball. So the first thing is we did not qualify last year. Last year was my first year at Washington State. We didn't make the Pac-12 tournament. And so I think the first thing is putting ourselves in position to make the Mountain West tournament, if not get it at large, win that tournament, and then get into a regional. I think if our pitching matches up like how I think it's going to match up and we stay healthy, it's just about execute and play good baseball. And so that's what it's going to come down to is can we pitch and play defense into the postseason? If you do that, you win 3 games on a weekend, all of a sudden you're in a super regional and it's a 2 out of 3. And, the path is not impossible. You just need to be playing your best baseball at the right time of the year, and you need to be able to pitch and play defense, in my opinion. Obviously, you got to score, but I think the way that we play, we're going to run a little bit. We're going to try to put some pressure on the defense. So I think we're going to be built to win some 4-3, 5-4 games. We're probably going to play in quite a few of those. So when we get into the postseason, we're going to be pretty seasoned on playing that style of baseball. One thing about some programs, they always win 11-4, and all of a sudden they get into the postseason and they're in a 5-4 game in the 8th inning, and you can see it on the other side. They start to get a little bit tight. I think a lot of our games are probably going to be 5-4, 4-3. So I think when we get into the postseason, it's just, hey, let's just keep playing good baseball and see what happens.
Yeah, you're going to see guys tighten up. And I say this every time I talk to people and they want to know, what does it take to get to Omaha? Get a hot pitcher and a hot bullpen guy. You get those guys going, all of a sudden, one win down, you get a bullpen guy to come out and steal another game. You're staring Omaha in the face because it comes down to 3-game series. And how can you play in those? And playing these early series for you guys and going down to Arkansas and playing Iowa on the road, even though it's a neutral site, still on the road for you guys. It's a big step to say, hey, we're making that step. We're going to do this for the RPI. We're going to do this for the wins. We're going to do this for the experience and get out there and get after it. I'm very excited to see what this Washington State team does this season, Coach. If there's any Washington State fans out there right now listening, what do you want to say to them? What do you want to express to them getting ready for this 25 season?
Yeah, I just, the end of last season left a little bit of a bitter taste in my mouth and our coaching staff's mouth. And so this offseason has been a long offseason. I mean, it's the longest in my career. And so really just excited to get out there and compete. And I think our fans are going to like how we play baseball. We're going to have some tough, gritty guys that are going to fight, scratch, and claw. You might beat us, but you're going to have to outplay us. And it's not, about the best players. It's about the best team. And I can just tell you through the end of the fall, I like our team. And I'll leave it at that and look forward to kind of showcasing that this spring and watching how our guys play baseball against some of the best programs in the country.
Coach, I can't wait for the 2025 season. I'll be watching February 14th. Can't wait for you guys taking on Arkansas. Thanks again for joining me, and we'll catch up again in the spring here when we get into it. We'll talk more in the spring, all right?
I appreciate it. Thanks, Mark.
Hey, thanks for having me.